Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cartalicchio. Want to welcome you to a live mini cast with a good friend of mine, Sinclair Kennally. Sinclair, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks, Dan. How are you?
I am doing well. I am excited to have this conversation with you because there's a summit that's coming up. I'm going to talk about the summit. And for those of you who don't know, who have been living underneath a rock, Sinclair is a former chronic illness survivor turned health activist. I love that. Award-winning expert on chronic digestive illnesses, CEO of the Detox Rejuvenation, host of Your Health Reset podcast, on a mission to help people discover the real reasons behind their health issues and take their power back. Welcome to the mini cast. So let's get right into it, Sinclair. Tomorrow starts the summit. I am so excited. I'm excited that you asked me to come on. I mean, I'm looking at the speakers and I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, my mind is just blown by the incredible really speakers, right?
Yeah. So, we have some heavy hitters and some luminaries here with us.
So awesome. Eventually I'll be a heavy hitter or luminary, but not just yet. So briefly, tell us what happened to you. What were these chronic illnesses? What brought you into this realm? And then we'll go over the summit and what's that all about?
You know, Dan, I don't think my story is actually that unusual today, and that's the really sad part. You know,
right?
I had a lot of ups and downs in my health over the decades, and I started out as a really sensitive kid. And I knew I couldn't eat certain things, and then I was sensitive to chemicals. It's like, okay, whatever, you know, I'm pretty healthy. I only had one broken bone. It's like, you know, that's how we measured health. You know, like how many casts have you had? We weren't talking about the gut microbiome back then. We weren't talking about all this stuff.
There was no such thing as the gut microbiome at all.
I know, right? So but I was pretty sickly as a teen. You know, I got strep a lot, and I had a lot of just chronic infections that would just go down really easy. And I didn't think about it until, you know, by the time I was in my mid-20s, these crashes had gotten longer and longer, you know, to where I was having like rheumatoid pain, and they called it fibromyalgia. And then, but they said mostly, you know, this is all in my head because I was so anxious and depressed. And but my labs looked fine. Right? Anybody heard that one before?
Everybody. You know what? What I find interesting, Sinclair, is that I have a same and similar story. And, you know, an x-ray, a lab, or whatever it is, whatever diagnostic test, and it's normal. It's not anything that's abnormal, but yet you're not feeling right.
Yeah. You know? So they use these like arbitrary in ranges.
Yes.
And they're looking at indicators that aren't actually what's really good for what's telling you what's wrong with most of the population today. So we really have to update the way that we're assessing these things. Because if you looked at the right lab markers, you know, you would have seen things going off. You would have seen fireworks. Right. But as it stood, you know, a normal CBC, you know, your basic metabolic, you know, blood work, it really wasn't showing much. It was not showing that I had 15,000 liver and gallstones to release, which I did on my own later.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. All it was showing was that I was normal. My, you know, Lyme test came back negative. Well, guess what, guys? You can't find Lyme in the blood. That's ridiculous. It's not where Lyme hangs out unless you've had a really acute exposure. Even the CDC says, you know, this isn't a great way to test for this.
Right. But they have to have a standard. Right.
I know. So I ended up in the hospital. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Lots of expensive MRIs and CAT scans and EKGs and stuff. And I checked myself out because I didn't have, you know, the money to pay for all this stuff. And I just went back home and I crawled into bed, and I did not get out for months and months.
Really? How old were you at that time?
I think that worst crash, I was 26, 27.
That's way too young to have that.
I know, right? You're supposed to be able to go away with not having health insurance at that age.
That is correct. But you should be worried about, you know, where are my friends going Saturday night? I'm starting a career.
Oh, yeah, no, that was not what the worries were. This was, oh my God, how do I have the energy to get up to pee? And just, you know, the tears would roll down my cheeks.
Absolutely.
I would tape my fingers with popsicle sticks at night before bed and shove them under my pillow. Otherwise, I would wake up in the morning with them clenched, and it would take like half the day to unpeel them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so So it was a fibromyalgic type of a situation that you had?
Yeah, it turned out that I actually had Hashimoto's disease,
Uh-huh.
Lyme's disease, mold toxicity,
Mhm.
SIBO,
Mhm.
and God, there's so many of them. Fibromyalgia, I think I already said that. Heavy metal poisoning, and I also had like a very, very high threshold for industrial toxins. Like it was like my panels were off the charts when we finally figured out what to test for.
Right.
And it was just that my body had shut down. It was not in a position to excrete anything. So just the problem was building up and getting bigger and bigger.
So now you had to change all of that around, and
Yeah.
you had to make sure that you found that root cause, as we say. What was that moment? Who did you go to? What did they find?
You know, to be really honest with you, Dan, I did not find it. I had given up. I
Mhm.
was,
Wow.
I do not mind telling you because I think it's so important to be honest about this.
Mhm.
I was trying to drink myself to death
Right.
because I was on so many medications, uppers, downers. They told me I had ADD. I had, couldn't sleep. So they had me just going like this all the time.
Mhm.
And so it was Michael that found what was really going on. As a therapist, he charged right into the medical community. He was just like banging down doors on every continent, literally
Right.
trying to figure out what was going on. And he called me from a European toxicology conference and he said, I know what's wrong with both of us.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was really interesting because he and I had very different symptoms. He had a very mast cell activation response, so his overnight, his reactions to food would change. He would find like the safe zone for food. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later,
Right.
nope, can't eat that. It will flare. So he was starving to death. It was really interesting. Um, and so I had given up and he had not. He was like, I'm going to fix both of us. So it was a very long, slow process.
It's just a long
Uh,
process. Yes, it
yes,
is.
long. Yeah. So it's a, medical term.
Well, I'm from the Northeast. I'm from New Jersey. So if you combine a couple of words, it's all good. There's never an issue with that. So it's all good.
Yeah. So it was really interesting because we had to try a lot of stuff that didn't work. I think
Right.
the biggest issue in natural health and functional medicine today is that the problem is evolving so rapidly
Mhm.
and practitioners aren't keeping up. So even if they know to look in this direction, what
Right.
they were doing 10 years ago doesn't actually work as well today.
Right.
So we all have to be really light on our feet and really on top of the data right now.
Right.
It takes 40 years for new data to reach mainstream medical practice. We don't
Right.
have that kind of time.
Don't have that type of
Chronic
time,
to us don't have that kind
especially
of time.
especially when you're looking at something like the gut. We know that the
Yes.
gut, it does start in the gut. I look at the gut all the time, every day, all day in my office. You have to look at that. We're doing testing. We're getting great results with healing the gut, looking at that intestinal permeability, looking at that leaky gut, because it is just that important right now to do so, right?
Yeah, it's so true. It's and the good news is we actually have better ways than ever before to assess this.
That's right.
And there's some amazing studies and amazing
Mhm.
practical tips that every single expert in this summit lays out for you. Like, here's what's working right now. Here's what we know right now.
Tell
Like,
us about the summit. Tell us what's going on with the summit. What is this all about? Again, thank you very much. I'm honored to have you select me to speak at the summit. We did have a great conversation, so
we
I'm
did. It
looking
was
forward.
packed with practical advice. So this was the
Yes.
rule. The rule that I set for myself with the summit is I want to bring together some of the most important health experts today.
Mhm.
And I want to have a very real conversation about how all this fits together. What
Right.
are the root causes of our issues?
Mhm.
How do they show up first in the body? And then how do they express later as the disease that each person thinks they have? Because
Mhm.
everybody gets like way too down the rabbit hole of, oh, I have MS. Oh, I
Mhm.
have diabetes. Oh, I have GERD. Oh, I have
Right.
Hashimoto's. And you're looking only at this narrow range of what you think is relevant data when you got to
Right.
step back. And when you take a big step back, you realize, oh, we're all getting exposed to this stuff. We're all making these mistakes in terms of what we've been told is okay to do,
Mhm.
what to eat, what to put on our bodies, what to put in our homes.
Right.
And So there's actually very few original causes. It's just the expressions of those get very specific person by person.
Sure.
So go ahead, Hen.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So my rule was for this summit that it had to be people that were really up to speed and in the know with what we understand right now in terms of data and what is working right now. And it had to be very focused on practical tips, because I don't know about you, but on my health journey, nothing would piss me off more. Hope that's okay to say.
You can say that.
You're from Jersey.
We are.
I think you know some of my favorite words.
We are based in New Jersey. So if you do in fact use off-color language, we'll say, I don't get upset, nor do my listeners, by the way, get upset. So it's all good, Sinclair.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even notice. I became an adult in New York, so that's always my excuse. So my rule for myself was for the summit that everybody had to give practical advice. You can't just talk around a topic that is your expertise. You have to make it actionable for the people listening, because you and I both know, having been on the other side of that screen, how sometimes you're hanging on an expert's words, hoping for just that one gem you haven't heard before.
Right.
And
that could mean all the difference in the world, where you can try something, we're giving some practical advice. Not only that, but maybe it'll motivate you, educate you, inspire you to then reach out and say, I need help, because that's the most important thing. Because if you don't get the help, you can continue to go on. So, you know what, when we were discussing a lot of actionable steps that we discussed, and it was really very, very exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. So really, all of my listeners today, all right, I'm here with Sinclair. She's an expert, and she has this summit, and the speakers are amazing. So everybody's up here. Then there's me, clawing to get the way up. But there is a link for you to go into, and it's for free to come in, right? And to listen to all of us.
Yeah.
And to get, that is
really
amazing.
Important to me. Yeah. Yeah. We wanted to make sure that people could come in and hear this, and it's only available for a short period of time that way. So please go sign up now.
Sign up right now, because I'm going to put this all over YouTube, Spot, wherever we are, we're going to put this. So sign up today. You get to hear me talk again. You get to hear my accent again. You get to hear my accent again. And you get to hear Sinclair interviewing the best of the best of the best. And that is important. Get those actionable steps that you can put forth, and you can help yourself out in your life. It's very exciting. It really is very exciting. I have my health journey, Sinclair, 37. I had that heart attack, and I look back on it, and I come from a generation, antibiotics for everything. Didn't make any difference. I grew up in northern New Jersey. I grew up in Bloomfield, Newark. I grew up near different companies that made chemicals that were used in Vietnam and that were used in everyday life. We were exposed to environmental toxins, pesticides. And I remember being brain foggy. My friends from North Jersey are going to really make fun of me with that one, that your brain, I'm always brain foggy, they're going to say. So, brain foggy, and you always felt, fatigued and so forth. That was my gut. I look back on it today. And when I finally healed my gut, I was able to, get health, and I was able to function at a higher level on many different realms, right?
So true. Yeah. And it's not an overnight process, but you can certainly see progress in a very short period of time.
Correct.
So if you're not seeing progress, you gotta dig deeper and take this into your own hands, guys.
That's right. You can't rely, and that's what we're going to do, is give you tools, right? Sinclair's going to give you tools to get out there and take this into your own hands, so that you can get better, be a better version of yourself every single day. So that's very exciting. So it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 16th through the 20th, for free. It doesn't get any better than that, everybody that's out there. So let's go. Sign up today. Sign up right now. Okay. There'll be a link in the show notes so that you can go on and you can see who the speakers are. Okay. And you'll see me too. So, there you go. So it's all good. So Sinclair, I know that time is short for you today because you're so, you got the, you have it starting tomorrow, the summit. If you
Mhm.
were to give any advice, 2 or 3 different actionable tips right now, what would they be to help out those that are listening?
I would say look at your environment with fresh eyes
Mhm,
because you are your environment. You are not separate from it.
mhm.
You're designed to be a part of nature. So just because we've all moved inside doesn't mean that we're not that we're now separate
Right.
from our environment. So everything from the Glade freshener to the detergent that's
Oh my
put on your
goodness.
sheets that you're
Right.
sleeping on at night,
Right.
these things matter a lot. The quality of your water,
Mhm,
right? Your body is taking in all of this information, it's absorbing it through your skin, through your breathing, and also through your food. So
mhm,
you've got to ask yourself, how much work am I giving my body every day to
mhm.
process this stuff? And can I make it just a little easier on myself?
Right. Sure.
A
Sure.
little easier by simplifying and throwing some of that crap out.
Taking that inventory is so important, right? Taking the
Hmm.
inventory, I did it in my life, taking the inventory, getting rid of that, because we're living in an ever toxic environment. And there's so many different, chemicals that we're exposed to. I mean, I think it ends this year or next year, flame retardant that they put on children's pajamas and things of that. It's so toxic. Oh my, yeah, you and I were rolling our eyes simultaneously together at the same time at that one, right? And it's
Yeah.
just so, and I think it ends. I think they're taking it out very soon, or they haven't taken it out from what I when, I- when
Hmm.
I remember reading. But that's so toxic. And boy, I grew up in a generation where they would spray you with that stuff before you went to bed because, of course, there was going to be house fires just because there it is.
You're killing me right now, dude.
Yeah, man. Well, that's the generation I grew up in an immigrant family, Sinclair. The world, was very small, and fires, and it was just crazy. Anyway, that's a story for another time. So
My
taking it,
partner's mother used to spray the cure countertops with Lysol before she cooked
yes,
dinner, like put the
yes,
raw food on.
yes. And you know what? Growing up, right? The pledge, right? The air freshener. Oh my goodness. By the time you clean the house, your room, it may have looked nice, but it wasn't the most it wasn't the best for you. So
Yeah.
taking an inventory, I think, and getting rid of anything that has those toxic chemicals, extremely important to do.
Yeah. And you don't have to be a weirdo about it. I mean, you can. I mean, we've gotten pretty weird at this point. What I mean is, you don't have to be afraid. You
Right,
don't have to be afraid.
right,
It doesn't help to be afraid, but it does help to be proactive. And you got to remember that no one else is looking out for you. In the
right,
US of A, the burden is all on the consumer to prove that a company is hurting them and not the other way around.
right,
The company does not have to prove that something is safe in order to release it to the public. So
right.
we got to stop expecting it to just be, safe if it's on the shelves, because it's not.
And that's what this summit is all about, is educating
Mhm.
everybody so that they can, in fact, look at it from a different standpoint. That's all that we're trying to do. Educating you, motivating, inspiring you, getting you to take a look at it from a different standpoint so that you can take those actionable steps and try different things. I think that for me, that's the takeaway. Try, get involved, take a listen to what we have to say, and then from there, add in a couple of few things. It's going to
Yeah.
work out. Then add in some more, gain some momentum when you're
Yeah.
doing this, right? And the next thing you know it, in a couple of months from now, you're like, wow, I haven't felt this good in a long time. I'm not exposed to these toxic chemicals anymore. Herbicides, pesticides, insecticides. We could talk about the clean 15, the dirty dozen forever, right? You and I.
Yeah.
And we can do all of that because it's not just the environment, it's the foods we're consuming. Like you said, the water we're drinking and so forth. What are you doing with that water? And how are you purifying it? Ooh, it sounds like a whole topic for another podcast.
So good. Yeah. Got some strong thoughts about that.
Uh-oh. I like it. I like it. So, Sinclair, thank you very much for being on today. It's always an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be on the to be invited to the summit. So for all of our listeners, in the show notes, you will see there's a link. Please click on the link. It's for free, okay? And you can take a listen, and you can just get these great speakers, world-class experts like Sinclair and everybody else, and make sure you take those positive action steps and apply them to your daily life. And let us know how that works out for you. You can put that in the
Yeah,
below.
we're cheering for you guys. We can't wait to hear more from you. And there's a
Yeah.
free Facebook group that comes along with the summit. So come in, hang out with us.
And what's the name of the
Dan's in there,
Facebook?
I'm in there.
Yeah, we're in there. We're rocking already. And so who is what's the name of the Facebook group that you that we have?
Oh, it starts in the Gut Summit.
It starts in the Gut Summit. If you join, you're automatically in, and you're ready to rock and roll. So
that's right.
Get going and get in there. So Sinclair, thank you very much.
You're so welcome, Dan. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you. I'm outside today. It's a nice day. I'm going to watch my boy play a little bit of baseball right now. And I will look forward to seeing everybody at the summit. Thank you, Sinclair. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Join up in the show notes. There's the link, and we will talk soon. Live your best life. There you are.